Welcome to Follow Your Curiosity. Ordinary people, extraordinary creativity. Here's how to get unstuck. I'm your host, creativity coach Nancy Norbeck. Let's go. Photographer and author Autumn Carolyn's relationship with wanderlust started early in her life with a semester abroad in England. From there, she's held a variety of travel-related positions, including flight attendant and travel agent, and all of them have allowed her to pursue photography around the globe. During the pandemic, she combined her photography with her travel stories, and the result is Traveling in Wonder, A Photographer's Tales of Wanderlust, which encourages readers to embrace exploration and life's everyday challenges. Autumn joins me to talk about the surprising gut instinct that changed the direction of her life, the realities of life as a flight attendant, including the wide range of life skills required for and learned on the job, the importance of traveling now rather than putting it off for retirement, and how she sees the intersection between travel and creativity. If you've been looking for inspiration to buy that plane ticket, this is it. Here's my conversation with Autumn Carolyn. Autumn, welcome to Follow Your Curiosity.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I start everybody off with the same question. Were you a creative kid, or did you discover your creative side later on?
I would definitely say that I was a creative kid. I was kind of the child that was very heavily into arts and crafts, and I was always talking to everybody. I wanted to make friends with everyone and was very outgoing as a kid. So I think it definitely is something that I've kind of been, something that has always been in me.
Were you encouraged to follow that?
I think so, definitely. My parents, I started playing piano when I was 7, and my dad, he is a musician, and so I grew up always watching him, and I always wanted to be like my dad. And so I just started with playing piano, and I played it for 10 years. And then I also was a singer, and I was reading up about how you are in the same boat. So I was in choir from 2nd grade until high school. And I did it in high school as well. And then I sang with my dad in college as well. And then I played guitar. And I started guitar when I was 8th grade, and kind of been playing it with my husband now on and off. So I think it's been definitely encouraged to be creative as I continue to get older. And my mom is not musical, but she is definitely the one that picks the tunes. So I have a good knowledge when it comes to trivia of 80s music and 70s and all that fun stuff.
Well, that's really cool. You got a lot of different stuff going on there.
Yeah,
so how did you end up taking up photography?
Yeah, I started photography. My dad was a photographer, and we had this old Nikon in our basement, and it was a Nikon N70. It was a film camera, and I had this film photography course in my high school, and you could take all these different electives, and I just thought, I think I would really like it if I could take it. And so I took it, and I learned how to develop film in the darkroom. I learned how to roll film and just have fun with being creative in a way that I wasn't really that much used to. I mean, I was used to like a Sony point and shoot for your MySpace profile, but I wasn't used to anything that was, in a creative sense. And basically I learned a lot of the basics there, but then I also had a lot of my really good friends came from that photography course that I'm still best friends with to this day. So it's kind of been something where it started when I was 15, but I didn't realize that this would be kind of like the catalyst for everything as I got older, which is kind of cool to reflect back on.
Isn't it funny? You never really know which things are going to
Yeah.
be that catalyst.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just sitting here thinking about how, like, I've always sort of thought that developing your own photos was like being able to do alchemy. It's like normal people, you just stick the film in the bag and you send
Uh-huh.
it off, and then
Yep.
they magically arrive back at your
Yeah.
house. And young people, I know that makes me sound really old, but that's how it used to be before we had digital cameras and phones that just did it for you. Or Polaroid, which, kind of took the middleman out of it, but still you had to at least wait and shake the thing and. But yeah, all of that with the different little pans and putting things in there, and you had to be in the dark, and it was like witchcraft, you
Yes.
know? Like how did you make this thing magically appear on this piece of paper? It's just wild. I've always been a little jealous of people who know how to do that.
Thank you. It was really fun. And also, when you're kind of learning how to do it, you're adjusting, you get in and you have this big, huge like adjustment that you put down, you put the paper down and you have to make sure it doesn't see any light for all of these different like angles that you're using. So just being able to like put it into like the developer and the stop bath and like watching the image come to life is a really amazing thing to witness, because when you are shooting and you're kind of trying to figure out things and you're really young and you're like, I don't even know if I'm doing this right, but then actually seeing the image, it's like, oh my gosh, I got it, it actually worked.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Now it's instant. You just look and you
Yes,
know. But
yes.
back then you did not know. There was
Mhm.
this mystery and wondering, and by the time you got it back was like, did I remember what I took the right way? Does what I'm seeing here actually match what I remember taking, or is it, oh, I thought I had this thing but it's more this other thing, and how did that happen? And strange things like that.
Yeah. And nowadays, I have friends that are getting back into the film photography, and it's really exciting to be able to be in pictures and for myself not get those pictures immediately the night, the day after or the night of, saying, oh, here are the pictures from tonight, and then having to wait weeks or a month or so, and then having it be like one photo that I receive back from it. And yeah, it's just really nice. It kind of makes those moments when they're captured in that way just that much more special.
Yeah. It's not always instant gratification.
Mhm.
We're so primed for everything to be right now and exactly the way we want it. And, oh, I messed that up. I'm going to just do it again and get it exactly right. And that was a luxury we didn't have
Yes.
way back. Way back. I'm not that old. I feel like it sometimes, but I'm not. So then where did you go from the photography class?
Sure. So when I did the photography course, I had these group of friends that I started to develop, and we would have these homework assignments. And so at the homework assignments, we would have to go and take pictures. And I grew up on the outskirts of Chicago in the suburbs there. So we would take the metro train and go kind of all over the suburbs of Chicago and into Wisconsin, and take the train and go into these little towns and use these new places to explore and take pictures. So it kind of got this idea of traveling in me at a young age when I'm 15 and 16 and with a group, and I don't have my parents, and it's really exciting and fun. Um, and then when I kind of got older and I graduated from high school, um, I went to college, and I got an English literature major, and I studied abroad. And when I studied abroad, it was in England, and I decided that I wanted to go to 13 countries in 13 weeks. So every week I would fly to a different country and go to the country from Friday through Monday, and then fly back in time for my courses that was on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it was more along the lines of kind of being having this exciting moment of traveling by yourself and meeting up with brand new friends when you are across the pond for the first time. But the thing that made it really exciting is that for the big gift, when I graduated, I was given a DSLR camera for the very first time. So this was a digital camera. This was not a film camera anymore. And my dad got a really good deal on it, and it was a Nikon D50-100. And so it was, I felt like I was a part of like the photographers now. Like I had a really nice camera that was a Nikon, and when I went to all these places, I brought my camera with me. But when I took these pictures, it was more along the lines of just taking it for fun. It wasn't something along the lines of me taking it to actually create a business or thinking of that down the road. It was just, I wanted to capture these memories that were happening in front of me. And I ended up being able to do the 13 countries in 13 weeks, and took all the pictures, was able to get that done. And I also was writing a journal while I was going through this. So I would journal on all the trains and the flights and the downtime, and then take pictures as well.
I am so green over here. It's unbelievable. Because, this just sounds like my dream semester to me. Every single thing about it, I would love to have done. And I always wanted to do a semester abroad, and I was not allowed to do a semester abroad because for some reason my parents thought that I would just go party all the time. I have never been a party girl in my life, so I'm not sure where they got that idea. But I was not allowed to go. I had to find my own way to live abroad for a while, which I did, but it wasn't that.
Sure.
But, I don't know if I would have thought to do something like 13 countries in 13 weeks. But boy, do I wish I would have if I'd had that chance. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't quite really let them know what I was doing. I did tell them, and, they knew. On Facebook, I would be uploading it because, this is back in the times where everyone would upload the pictures from over the weekends and like think of a really fun album name for your pictures to post on Facebook. And so, they were watching me vicariously through this. And I think it was really neat to be able to have these moments, but I don't think that they really knew all the different things because I just didn't really want to kind of let them know until it was done and then say, oh, yeah, this is what happened, because I had a feeling that they would probably be very afraid or scared because I did a lot of the traveling, by myself or with people I had just met. So,
yeah. Yeah, the name for that photo album is Easier to Get Forgiveness Than Permission.
Yes, exactly.
And you put that name on it after the 13th trip.
Yes. Yep.
But I also love going places by myself, and a lot of people don't get that. But I think was the last time I went on a group tour, I think was in 2002. It was a choir tour. And that was pretty much when I was like, yeah, this is a lovely idea on paper, but 2 straight weeks with the same group of people is way too long with the same group of people. And, 3 or 4 3-hour walking tours is at least 3 too many. And I want to be able to go do my own thing and see my own stuff. I'm the weirdo who likes to go and visit all of the American fast food places in other countries. I don't necessarily want to actually eat there, but I want to go see what's on the menu because it's always more interesting than what's
Yes.
here.
Yes.
I want to go do weird things like that. I want to go
Yes.
visit the grocery store and see what's in the grocery store.
Yep.
And, nobody else on the trip is that weird. I want to go see cool sights too, but I want to go
Mhm.
see ordinary things that are different, and other people don't want to do that. So it's hard to do that on a group tour, especially if you don't have a car.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of merit to traveling by yourself. I mean, you have to pick your destinations more carefully,
Mhm.
but there's a lot to be said for it. So my hat is off to college age you
Oh, thank you.
for doing that.
Thank I always met people, or I either travel, like I tried to travel with groups, or I tried to do things so I wasn't completely and entirely alone. And a lot of them I was able to fly over and go into different places with people I had met through studying abroad. So it was kind of like a mix. It wasn't entirely all alone, but there were some places that I did fly to that were alone. And it was, I think back on it, like one of them was Amsterdam. I went to Amsterdam by myself and I stayed in the red light district. And I look back on it and I'm just like, wow, like everything worked out. And I met a really amazing group of guys that were really kind and nice. And we hung out the whole day. And, you know, it just little things like that where you kind of think about what you're doing after the fact of when you're younger.
Yeah. And there are places that I've been to in the US where, I was with a friend in New Orleans right before Hurricane Katrina, like literally days before Hurricane Katrina. And we tried to find a seafood restaurant one night, and we decided it wasn't that far away and we were going to walk. And the farther we walked, the more the hairs on the back of your head stood up.
Yeah.
And finally, we reached a certain point. We're like, yeah, we're going to call for a cab now.
Yeah.
And that was before smartphones, but I had a Palm Pilot that had a directory on it. And so I was able to look somebody up and call. And the driver was like, what on earth are you doing here? You're like, yeah, that's a really good question. How about we answer that after we get in the car and get out of here?
Yep.
So it's not just foreign countries that you have to be careful in, but a lot of them, I don't have a problem going to London by myself. I went to Edinburgh a couple years ago. Plenty of places are just fine on your own. And then there's other places where you need to know where the heck you're walking in the evening at the dinner hour by yourself.
Yes, exactly. There was this one instance that I had when I was in Budapest in Hungary, and I was trying to find my way to a hostel, and I was alone with my carry-on bag in a roller, which normally I always had a backpack on, but I had a bunch of items in it that I had purchased, souvenirs, because I was doing different countries in 1 week. And so I had this roller bag with me, and it was getting dark. I had no cell service, had no clue where I was, trying to find this hostel. And I could tell that it was not the best part of town, I think. And I just was lost. And there was this group of men that was behind me. And they kept on looking at me, and it started to rain, and I was looking back. And then the group of men started to follow me, and they were getting closer. And then half of the group split into two, and half of the group went in front of me. So I have a group that's in front of me who's slowing down. I have a group that's behind me that's speeding up. I'm caught in the middle with this really large luggage bag with a map out and trying to find where I am. And there was nothing open. And I just remember praying. I was like, God, please get me out of this situation. And then there was this one meat shop that was open. And I'm a vegetarian, so I don't eat meat. And I walk into this meat shop and there is like, the meat hanging from the rafters, and this like little old lady with like a cleaver thing, and she was trying to talk to me, but I don't speak Hungarian, and I was trying to say to her, I'm lost, I don't know where I am, can you help me with the hostel? But she didn't quite know what I was saying, so I just waited it out, and I kept on looking outside because she had this little window that I could look out to see where the men were. And I kept on waiting, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna be in here. Like, thank God she's here. And like I'm gonna just stay in here for a little bit and just act like I'm, keeping dry from the rain that's now pouring. Eventually I get my map out. I show her where I'm trying to go. She helps me to tell me where I am. And 20 minutes goes by and the group is gone. And I still think about that to this day, because if I had been enwrapped in like my phone, or if I had not been really aware of my surroundings, I really have no clue what would have happened.
Yeah.
And thank God for that Hungarian woman in that meat shop who was desperately trying to get me to buy the meat, because she was really helping me out and a true hero in this story.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrifying. And I have to think that meat cleaver kind of looked welcome in a way when you saw
Oh, I know,
it.
right?
I might need that. I need that more than I need the
Can I
meat
get
lady.
behind the counter?
I need to arm myself in this moment
Yeah,
before I go
yeah.
back outside. Oh, that's terrifying, but I'm glad it turned out okay. But yeah, that's the thing. Though at the same time, if you had a smartphone, probably Google Maps would have made sure you didn't get
That
so
is
lost.
true.
So
That is true,
there's
actually.
that. Yeah. So I'm curious to know how photography became a bigger thing. And I'm also curious to know how you ended up working for an airline. And I don't know which one,
Sure.
the chicken or the egg, which one came
Yeah.
first?
So when I graduated from college, I came back straight from studying abroad. And the week after I graduated, and then I started putting in my application to all places all around. And I kind of had this idea that I was going to move to Australia, and everything was all set. I had a one-way ticket booked. I had a apartment that I was going to be staying in, a place that I was going to be working, and I packed up everything and put it all in boxes. I was staying at my parents' house, and 3 days before my flight, I got this gut feeling that I shouldn't go. And I didn't quite know what it was about, but I just kept on thinking, like, why do I feel this way? Because everything is all set. I've got it all. I've been waiting for this. I worked 4 different jobs to save up the amount of money that I needed to pass to get into this work program, because you need a copy of your bank statement, and then they need to see that you have that money in it in case of any emergencies. So I had worked like, a year after I got home from graduating, and then 3 days before I had this gut feeling, and I decided to let the one-way ticket go. It was non-refundable, and I couldn't do anything with it. And I kind of remember being in that moment. I was so embarrassed because I told all of my friends, my family, everyone that I was going to Australia. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm not going anymore because I have this gut feeling. And I know that makes me look kind of weird, but it just feels different. And then I just started putting in applications everywhere, because I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to this. I don't know what this is, but I'm just going to put in applications. And I do not even remember putting in my application for this particular airline to be a flight attendant. All I know is that I put it in for all these different ones, but I got a call for a phone interview. And it was 10 days from the day that I let my plane ticket go. And they had a phone interview. I passed the phone interview. And then I think it was so quick. It was like I don't know if it was a week or how quickly it was, but they asked me to fly down to the base hub and go through interviews. So for one day. So I had 6 interviews in one day. And it was really intensive interviews, and you had to prep for everything. And they had 60 interviewees, and they only read 5 names, and my name was the last of the 5. So it was something that I was just like, if I would not have listened to the gut feeling, I would have missed this entire chance to be able to be a flight attendant. I would have been living in Australia, which would have been amazing, but it wouldn't have been what I really wanted. It would have been something that would have been a different aspect. And there was something better for me that I didn't realize was out there. And so I was picked, and then I went through this intensive training, and it was 3 months of intensive training, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. And I learned how to administer CPR, fight fires in a cabin, to be able to evacuate the plane in less than 90 seconds in case of an emergency. And all of these things that you don't really think of when you think of a flight attendant. You think of a flight attendant as helping you with your bags and helping you get to your seat and, in-flight service, but you had to learn so many survival skills in case you
Sure.
crash and to a island and you have nothing to, it was mind-blowing and extremely hard. Every single week, I thought I was not going to make it. And then you have to pass with a 90%. At the end of the week, you take a test. And if you do not pass with a 90%, you don't get to go on to the next week. So someone in my group or in my class had an 89.5%. And they did not let her go. And she had to go home because of that 0.5%. And it was so sad because she worked so hard to study for this. And so it was just something that every week I was like, all right, I'm going to go home. I gave it my best. But every week I kept on continuing to go. And it was like this huge, I was just amazed. And then at the end of the 3 months, I graduated from that training, and then I became a flight attendant. And I was based in Minneapolis, which is where I'm in Minnesota now. And so it just kind of sparked everything. It was, starting with me being able to go to studying abroad and then becoming a flight attendant. And when I would be a flight attendant, I would bring my camera with me on layovers to take pictures at different places. And that was really exciting too, because at that time it was a different career, but I was still able to travel, but I was still able to do what I really loved, which was take pictures and do photography of places that I wanted to go to. So that's kind of how it was all incorporated into one.
That's amazing. And I want to just clarify one thing. When you said that there were 60 people when you went for that interview and they read 5 names, does that mean that only 5 people actually got to interview?
Yes. No, that means all 60 interviewed, but only 5 people got passed.
Okay.
And got to go into training.
Okay.
So
because I thought, man, if you went that far and you didn't even get to interview.
Oh, no. Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No. I just wanted to make sure that.
All the 60 people did interview, but it was just the 5 names that at the end they counted.
Okay.
And then that went through.
Wow.
Yeah. So
the whole thing almost sounds like a reality TV show.
Yeah.
It really does.
It was really, I feel really lucky and blessed that I got that, because it was just, I didn't think that would be what would happen.
Right.
So I flew. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think it's worth mentioning for a second for people who don't know that it is really hard to move to another country. Since you mentioned everything that you had to do and set aside and all of that, it's not easy.
Yeah.
People like to say like, oh, if you don't like it here, just leave. It's not like moving from,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania to Vermont.
Mhm.
It's not that easy. Even to visit Australia,
Mhm.
there you have to, even as an American, you have to fill out a little sort of visa-ish thing before you go. It's cheap, but you have to do it. And then basically when you get there, it's, good day, welcome, come spend all your money. When are you leaving?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's essentially how you're greeted at the airport. They
Yeah.
want to know exactly when you are shoving off.
Yeah.
So, they're very fussy about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of hoops that you have to go through when it comes to um, working and being able to find a position that, you can be able to work, but then also get paid and have it be like a program. And it for this particular program, it was only for those who had just graduated within a certain time frame. So
Hmm.
because I had graduated from college, I only had these certain amount of years that I could be able to take this program. So not being able to do that was kind of like, that's just how it goes. You just don't
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
that was it was very scary.
Yeah.
I was honestly really worried.
Yeah.
Mm.
And as
Um,
an added bonus, if you're as an American citizen working somewhere else, you still get to pay taxes to the United States, even though you didn't earn the money here. And if you decide that you're going to become a citizen of another country, they will pre-bill you for all the tax money that you are not earning here for the rest of your life. Fun things you probably didn't know about taxes as an American citizen. Anyway, please carry on from where I
Now
interrupted
you
you.
know.
Now you know.
Um, but when I was a flight attendant, they 1 year from the day I was able to go back to, or I was able to go to Australia. It was $120 round trip. I just had to pay for the
Wow.
international fees. And when I went there, I was able to go bungee jumping. I bungee jumped off of like from up above like 17 stories and like went scuba diving in the Great Barrier Reef and did all of these exciting things that I had always wanted to do. And it was just kind of like everything came to a full circle because I was able to look back on making that decision and then having it be the 1 year anniversary of letting the one way ticket go through and then being able to be on a plane and having it be like $120 for the entire thing and saying this was the right choice. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy I listened to the intuition. And so, yeah, so that was really fun.
Yeah, it came back to you in its way.
It did, yeah. Um, so I was a flight attendant for a few years, and then I met my husband, I got married, and then I quit because he got a job at a different state, and so we moved. And it was also at a time that flight attendants, it's it is a dream job. It is also very hard.
Yeah.
And it is something that you don't realize how hard it is on your body and waking up in a different time zone every day and going to sleep and not realizing where you are. And then, you know, when I would leave, my animals would be so confused because I'd be home and then all of a sudden I'd be packing up and leaving. Um, and then I also got hurt on the line. I was helping a woman with a bag, and she was telling me that she I don't believe that she spoke English, and I was trying to tell her that I can't lift the bag because I have a herniated disc in my back, but I can assist her. And so I was saying I can help you, but I can't lift it. And so this bag was so heavy. It was the
Oof.
heaviest bag, so I'm helping her. We have it up above our heads. And then she lets go of her side completely. And it goes straight onto me. It like goes up. my back gets all messed up, and then it like falls onto the floor. And instantly I like felt that crunch, and I'm like, this is going to be really bad. And I was out for months. I had to go through physical training, and after that happened, it was just like, yeah, this is not going to be good. Um, so just little things like that where it all added up. And, when we moved to a different state, I know technically you can deadhead and you can go and fly to your hub, but when you are flying for 11 days straight and you are constantly on the go, it is so tiring to be having to do a commuting from a different state away. It just adds on time there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my time that I knew that I was going to depart. So I said goodbye, and then I became a travel agent. And I started using all the different places that I went to and booking it for other people. And I also used those discounts to be able to go to places like Machu Picchu and go on these amazing excursions, and then bring my camera with me while that was happening as well. So I still stayed with the travel theme. And so we were gone and lived in a different state for a few years. And then he got a job back in Minnesota. And guess who moved back here? And that's how we ended up back here.
Wow. Yeah, I think flight attendants do not get anywhere near enough credit for what a tough gig that is. I mean, even just from what I've seen on planes with difficult passengers and, my undying gratitude for flight attendants who have dealt with situations, cleanly and easily, not always to the happiness of other people on the plane, but,
Yes.
is there a problem here? This is how it's going to go. And yeah, just, I don't know. I mean, and maybe it's worse now just because people seem to be fussier now,
Yeah.
but maybe it's not on every flight, and maybe it is, but it's got to be tough when you're dealing with a lot of that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew a guy 15, 20 years ago who had been a flight attendant, and I remember him talking about, how to handle a drunk passenger and, pouring them the drink that has way less alcohol in it than they think it does, because you do not want them getting any drunker, and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, you must end up with phenomenal people management skills after that, whether you want them or not.
Thank you. Yeah, you do learn a lot of different, I don't know if you would say talents or tasks, but I've kind of had to learn how to handle what happens when someone starts seizing. I had a passenger have medically induced, or two seizures that happened, and we had to do an emergency landing onto an airport, and the paramedics had to come and get him, and he was, blue, and it was really scary because his wife was there and she was crying, and I still remember everything because it was like that training just put it instantly in my mind of like, I have to do this, and there's not even any time for you to think of what do I do next. It's just you instantly, focus on it, and you just get it done because that's your priority, is to make sure that everyone is okay. But then you have other instances where, we were going into Detroit, and there are two passengers in first class who were fighting over two presidential candidates, and they were really getting into it, and it like got physical, and then I had to restrain and the Detroit police got involved,
Oh
and I
my.
had to give a witness statement. And so you have different aspects of that where you're just trying to figure out, what to do to make sure everyone is safe on their flights. But sometimes things happen and you just have no clue that they're going to happen until they do, and then you just have to handle it when it comes to you, which I think has been kind of a really interesting way to think. So if you are looking for friends, try and find friends who are flight attendants. Because maybe they might be good in intense situations. I don't know.
They certainly know how to handle the unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was weird. There were some really weird, strange stories that I've got, but
I bet.
yeah. So so then we moved back to Minnesota. I became a travel design manager, and I was creating trips for corporations around the globe, for them to use as incentive packages, for them to hit their quotas. And that was a really fun and exciting job. But then the pandemic hit, and
Mm.
a lot of travel people got laid off, and I was one of them. And so I kind of had this free time to do whatever I wanted, and I didn't quite know what to do with it, but I knew I had a closet full of photography that no one had ever seen, and I had journals of just entries of funny, weird stories that have happened throughout these 30 these 30 countries that I went to. And I started when I was 22, and then I end when I'm 30. And so I started to create this idea of having a small business that would sell my photography. And then earlier this year, I came out with a book, Traveling in Wonder. And so each chapter is about a different country, and it also includes the photography in the book as well. So it's just something that has been a really fun and creative process throughout all the years. And it's interesting how it all comes together in the end. And you don't realize it as you're going through all these different careers that are in photography and travel and, funny stories when you're studying abroad. But then when you come out of it, and all these pictures that I took, that are in the book and on my website, none of them were really for anyone to have in their house as like canvases. They were really just for enjoyment. And so now it's been just a really fun joy to be able to watch photography that I've taken over the years become something for someone else,
Hmm.
where they want to be able to have it in their house, or on a luggage tag, or in a calendar that they want to have. So it's been really fun.
It's really cool too to be able to pull it all together that way and see it as a whole. I bet that there were surprises for you in that when you were putting it all together.
Yes, there have been a lot of surprises along the way. I had to learn how to start my own art business, and basically learn, how to start a website, and what does that mean to do a website, and what is SEO, and how do you start a blog, and social media tactics, things like this that I really didn't know that much about, and pricing and sales, and also with making sure that the main focus is the number one thing is to be creative in it, because that's what was the whole driving factor of it in the first place. So I think it has been a lot of challenges, but I think it's been really fun as well. And I this actually today, I earlier today, I've been working on a course that I just started selling, that it's how to establish your own art business. And so it kind of like takes people through what it's like to create and use the pieces that you're creating and then establish it into a business so that way it can become profitable for you. So yeah, it's been really fun to watch it all come together for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious too, because, since you include the word wonder in the title of the book, wonder is a thing that really fascinates me because I think that, we think about it a lot like with kids at Disney World, seeing Mickey Mouse in front of them for the first time or watching fireworks or something like that. And I think that we kind of lose touch with wonder as adults. And I put awe and wonder largely in the same category. But I'm wondering like how has wonder influenced your photography and how did it kind of come together in the book?
Yes. So it's actually funny because traveling in wonder, this phrase I came up with when I was like 18. I had this blog on Tumblr and it was traveling in wonder, twirling in grace. And it was like this quote that I thought of. And, when I was writing in my and doing all these journal entries in my Word document, I kept on thinking like, oh, I bet you that I think Traveling in Wonder is going to be a really good title for this. It feels like this is like the right thing. And then it felt like I was like able to talk to like, my 18, 19-year-old self and be like, look at what, your thing is now on a book, like your quote. Like, you thought of this when you were younger and now it's like coming to fruition, which is really amazing to see that. But throughout all of it, I think wonder is kind of seen in everything because I didn't quite know what the end goal would always be in each chapter. I didn't really think that I would always be a flight attendant forever. I never really thought that I would be a travel agent forever or a travel design manager. And studying abroad was always something that I knew was going to be at a certain amount of time. So in each of these entries, I always think of it as, well, this might be the end of my time being able to travel because I never know what's going to happen. So I'm just going to try and do as much as I can now to see what I can and experience it because I don't know what could happen in the future. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of made wonder that much more important to me because I think also on a different aspect of it, my mom has she has macular degeneration. And so she's legally blind and her eyesight is getting worse and worse. And I know that it's genetic. And so it is something that when I was younger, I mean, she was diagnosed when I was really young. And I always had this idea that, you know, I don't know what could happen to I don't know what could happen to me. I don't know what could end up happening. So I just want to see everything while I can now. I want to be able to live in this because I want to be able to have these experiences and you know, I want my mom to be able to see what I have done through my images and videos because, she doesn't travel. She's, she's not really one to travel as much. And, she's just kind of, yeah, is a little afraid of it. And so to me, it's just like, if I can be able to bring that to her and be able to like talk about these things and tell her all these funny stories, maybe that can like bring her some kind of joy. So that way, just things like that you don't really think about until when push comes to shove and you're like, wow, things could change very quickly and you don't even realize it until it's already has changed. And I think that was, there are many different factors, but those are just a few of them.
Yeah, and I think you've raised a really good point, which is, when I was a kid, what I heard a lot was that, you should save all of the big traveling for like when you were retired. You should go to work, do your job, and save up your money so that you had the money to do that. And that's basically what my grandparents did. They were taking all of their trips in retirement. And that was my parents' plan. And I remember, and I don't think I was much more than maybe 12 or 13, sitting there thinking, y'all know you could be hit by a bus tomorrow, right? Like, you don't know if you're going to be here then. Like, obviously, grandma and grandpa, okay, they made it, they can go and do all this stuff now, but anything could happen. And my dad now has mobility issues. So the kind of stuff that my grandparents were doing, they did some of it, fortunately, but not to the degree that I think they expected to be able to do. And I sort of think that that's why I didn't get any pushback when I declared that I was going to New Zealand and Australia in 2017, because I was like, I'm going now because I know I can.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you should put that stuff off, because life is short and you don't know how long you're going to have. And so, do it while you know you can. Don't do it to the point where you end up in abject poverty, be smart about it, but do it while you know you're able to, so that you don't end up regretting it later because you never got the chance.
I agree. You give me goosebumps.
I don't know. I don't know that I was necessarily a particularly wise 12 or 13-year-old. It was just kind of obvious to me that didn't really make a whole lot of logical sense, but I obviously wasn't going to tell people older than me that sounded stupid. But yeah, I would never tell anybody to put that stuff off.
I agree.
Yeah. So another thing that I'm wondering about, and that I often ask people who've traveled a lot on this show, but it might be, I don't know if this is going to be an easy question for you, because travel has really permeated everything you've done, but I'm curious to know what you think about the connection between travel and creativity and how it influences creativity.
I feel like when I am traveling, I feel I am at my peak at creativity. 100% to me, because that's when I don't have to think about, okay, I have this schedule today, and then tomorrow I have this, and I have to prep for this, and then I've got to do that. In the moment when I'm traveling, I am able to just be there. I have my camera with me. It's almost like this nostalgic factor of like, all right, girl, like you done this, however many times, you're going to do it again. Like you have your thing, you know how to do it. You take your time. You take, some time to shoot, and then you take a break and you take some time to be in the moment without being behind a camera, so that way you can soak it up with your own eyes. And I think it's something now that, with writing and with journaling as you're traveling, it means a lot to me, because I can feel way more in tune with myself. On the flip side of that as well, because I know a lot of people say, well, I can't travel. I don't have the money, or I don't have the mobility. Same with my mom. She has mobility issues as well now. And so she's not able to do that either. And I think even if you are not able to go to a different country and explore a different place, I always think of just going to a different town, or just going to a new grocery store that you've never been to before, someplace that's around that you've not explored. You can still be creative in it, because it's something that's new and exciting to you that you've not experienced before. You're able to take pictures, you're able to journal, you're able to write about what you smell and what you see, and what you taste, and the different things that you feel, and stopping and pausing and being in that moment. I think that's why I keep going back to it, because it is something that forces me to stop in where I am.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the, checking out things nearby that you haven't been to before is a great suggestion too. And I think a lot of us probably started doing that during pandemic lockdown because we couldn't really go anywhere else. So I'm going to go outside and go for a walk because I've spent too much time in my own house, but I'm going to drive to a neighborhood I've never been to before and I'm going to take a walk there. It can be that simple just to go see something different and new. You're absolutely right. For those who suddenly feel a little bit more inclined to travel, having listened to this interview, do you have any words of wisdom?
I would say to go. If you are thinking about traveling, go while you can. To remember to be financially responsible about it, but in that way to save up and to, even if it's just purchasing a plane ticket and having that goal of saying, okay, I'm going to go in 1 year and I purchased my tickets. I don't have a hotel. I don't have anything else booked, but I purchased the tickets. So I'm going to be good about saving everything until then. And then, being strict about it. But I think for those who aren't able to travel, still being able to go to places that you've never been before. I just think experiencing something that's new, putting yourself in a different position that you've not been before, and kind of stretching through your comfort zone is really important, because you can have experiences that you would have never had before if you wouldn't have taken the chance. And I think taking that chance and taking that risk, it may be scary, and maybe, starting off going to a new place that you've never been before that's closer to home, and then building up that courageousness to be able to start exploring a different state by yourself or exploring a different country. I think it's a process, but I think that sticking true to it and being able to do it, when you get through and when you're in it, you're going to feel so much better that you did it than if you were to just stay home and not do it. That's kind of how I feel.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks.
And I think that's a great note to end on. So thanks so much for coming and sharing all of this with us today. I think this was just like, for a travel nut like me, it was great to talk to somebody else who's done all of this. And I hope that it inspires more people to get out and see more parts of the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. And is it okay if I do a plug about my book?
Yeah. And we'll put a link to it in the show notes too.
Okay, thank you. So Traveling in Wonder is on my website, www.Autumn Carolyn, and it's Carolyn with 2 N's.com. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all the fun stuff at Autumn Carolyn Photography.
We'll have all that in the show notes too. So
thank you so much.
You can go check out Carolynn's work. It's gorgeous. So you definitely want to take a look.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's our show. Thanks so much to Autumn Carolyn and to you for listening. You can find links to Autumn's book and socials in the show notes. Please leave a review for this episode. You'll find a link in your podcast app, so it is really easy and will only take a minute. If you enjoyed our conversation, I hope you'll share it with a friend. Thank you so much. If this episode resonated with you, or if you're feeling a little bit less than confident in your creative process right now, join me at The Spark on Substack as we form a community that supports and celebrates each other's creative courage. It's free, and it's also where I'll be adding programs for subscribers and listeners. The link is in your podcast app, so sign up today. See you there, and see you next week. Follow Your Curiosity is produced by me, Nancy Norbeck, with music by Joseph McDade. If you like Follow Your Curiosity, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to tell your friends. It really helps me reach new listeners.